I used to have a Patreon campaign, and I did several hundred videos that were exclusively for patrons on Patreon. But after I quit doing Patreon at the end of 2024, I began going through a lot of those old videos and re-releasing them on YouTube for free. I've pretty much released all of the kind of series of videos. I used to call them exclusive video builds. I've released all of those that I'm going to release. And I'm just going through some of the leftovers, shorter, smaller videos that I did for patrons that were just kind of brief glimpses into the process of building any particular model at any particular time. And most of them were only relevant at that time. But this is one that I thought I would share, but I wanted to give it a little bit of intro, a little bit of context, which sounds really pretentious to say, and I don't mean it like, it's anything special. It's just an old man talking about his toys. But anyway, I built a Warhammer 40K Chimera, which is a tracked armored personnel carrier. And I had used some resin conversion parts to make it into a wheeled vehicle. I thought it looked really, really cool with wheels. I've done the tracked one too, but I thought the wheels made it look really cool. And as I was going through and working on that model, I hit kind of a point in the weathering that I just wasn't happy. And in this fairly short, especially for me, segment, I just talk about what I did to work through that. And I just thought that maybe for the tens of people who will watch this, it would be perhaps something helpful to think about, to factor into your own thinking when it comes to weathering. And it might help you in your own modeling. So that's the hope. But that's what this is. And I'll put links down in the description for the video to the playlist for the Chimera that I'm discussing in this segment coming up. It was a really, really fun build, and in the end, I was very, very happy with how it turned out. So check that out if you get a chance and you got nothing else to do, and all that. So anyway, here's this old Patreon video. Well, here's a look at the Chimera APC as I'm almost finished with it. In the middle of, well, not in the middle, I'm about 80%, 90% finished with filming the final part 6 of this build, which covers all the final weathering. And you can see how that's looking right there. And I'm pretty happy with it. I'm not entirely happy with it. There've been a few areas that I've let my own filming schedule rush me through a few things that I think I probably would have liked to have had more time to do. Well, let me rephrase that. I should have given myself more time to do, but I'm pretty happy with it, and how it's turning out. I think it looks appropriately 40K, but there's some armor modeling that's popping out on it, especially when it comes to the mud and things like that. So I think this should end up being a pretty good finish. But about halfway through the weathering, I had gotten on the chipping and some of the other effects that I was putting on was just beginning to mud, and I was completely unhappy with how it was looking. I thought the chipping had been overdone. I thought the mud was just all wrong, and I was really frustrated with it. And it's double frustrating because because I'm an idiot who's arrogant enough to think that I can put out YouTube videos, because I'm more surprised than anybody else that anybody even watches them, honestly. But when I was looking at it and thinking, okay, not only are you not happy with this, but somehow you've got to, present this in a way of, okay, this, like Pee Wee Herman says, I meant to do that. I started looking at it and I thought, what am I going to do? And then I just remembered something that Lincoln Wright said, and this may be a paraphrase. This is a paraphrase, but basically that there's a point when you're weathering a model that quite often you just look at it and you go, that looks awful. That just looks awful. And it as I had one friend, he commented on the same thing. He said, there's a point that it just looks like butt. So I took that to heart and said, okay, let me keep going. Let me keep refining and adjusting things and adding things on. And since I did that, I'm much happier now that I'm at this point than I was just a few days ago when I was honestly thinking of repainting and starting over that whole episode 6. And trying to get it looking like it did at the end of episode 5 and starting over, because I was just so unhappy with it. But I started using some glazes to tone a few things down to make them look a little more streaked. I actually added in more mud than I had originally. I was not happy with the way the mud was looking under here. I thought of trying to paint over it, and I thought, well, okay, if you're already thinking of that, why not just add more mud and see what happens? I added more, blended in more, and all of a sudden it hit what I was actually looking for. The same way with the coloring on the upper surfaces. Once I started adding in some dust marks and some additional tonal variation and things like that, I started saying, okay, I can live with this. I'm happy with this. So when you're in a build and you're not happy with where it's at, keep in mind that usually, and I've run into I should know better. I run into this a lot. I shouldn't have let this trip me up. But usually about a third of the way, maybe halfway through the weathering process of making your model look dirty, there's a point where it's just not looking great. But going on through that, pushing on through that, will get it to a better point. And I think part of it has to do with something I talk about a lot, which is depth of finish. Those first few layers, it's weathering, but it's a really flat weathering. It's not an interesting weathering. And I think where a lot of folks make a mistake in their growth is that's where they stop. They go, well, I've added 2 or 3 layers of weathering, and so that must be enough because that's more than one. And honestly, I've got 12 to 15 layers of things going on here. Now, it may be replications of the same stuff several times, but doing that multi-layered approach and really going for that depth of finish is, I think, what's going to help your model shine. Now, the thing I've had to learn in doing that is as you put more layers, you have to show more restraint with layers. Because if you're used to doing a very heavy chipping layer and you say, okay, I'm going to do this chipping and I'm going to do it 3 times, and you do it heavy 3 times, you're not going to have any paint left. The same way with, say, mud. If you just slap on a bunch of mud and then leave it and then come back and do that same thing 2 or 3 times, you may get more than you want. So as you focus on depth of finish and layers, I would recommend that each of those layers be more restrained, but allow them to build up on each other. And especially, one of the things that I think has helped me is reducing the opacity of each layer so that it allows the background to shine through, but at the same time allows those colors to build up. And it allows serendipitous moments to happen where you weren't necessarily planning for one area to be lighter than the other or one area to be more interesting than the other, but it happens. One of the areas that I was really happy with, and this is just a simple thing, but this upper deck right here, there's just a lot going on with that. And I kind of stumbled into that because it wasn't until I was just this morning filming, putting on some dusting, that I kind of got up close as I was doing it. And I'm like, wow, there's actually a lot of stuff going on there. And I kind of surprised myself because it wasn't intentional that happened. It just happened through the process of putting on those successive layers. But anyway, this ramble, I guess, is more about encouraging you in what I've just once again experienced and learned, that, patience and sticking to the plan and really focusing on depth of finish will help you, even if it's not 100% of what you were aiming for, which this is not. I'm much happier with it because of that depth of finish than I would have been otherwise. So I guess to sum it up, never give up, never surrender. That's what Buzz Lightyear says, right?